Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial we will work this flower bud top, which is a round yoke top, using V stitches and popcorn stitches, and I hope you will like it. But first let's talk a bit about the construction of the top and how what is the logic behind it. So like I said, it's a round yoke top, so for me it was simple to start with a swatch just to see how many V stitches do I have in a 10 centimeters square, and then I easily transform all my measurements into the stitches that I will want to use. So first is the swatch. After seeing how many stitches you will need for your measurement, and it's easy to measure the main parts and see how or how many stitches you'll have to work to. So after having the swatch, the gauge, I just started to think about how wide I wanted the neckline to be. So I had one measurement for the neckline, and then I was going to the bust. So after going and measure the bust, or if you have a standard measurement, then you can use those one. Adding the ease, so I end up with about 108 centimeters bust circumference. Then the sleeves, because the yoke, the round yoke, has bust circumference plus sleeves, so you will also have to decide on the upper arm how wide you will want the sleeves to be. After having these measurements, neckline, bust, and sleeves, you know with how many stitches to start with and how many stitches you will need at the end of the yoke. And then it's time to measure the yoke depth, which for round yoke I'm just measurement, or I'm using as reference the armpit or the armhole. So depending on that, but of course you can measure from your neckline where your neckline want to be, and up to where or the armpit or lower the armpit, depending on the fit that you will want for your top. And then this will mean that you will know how many rows you will need for your yoke, and knowing how many stitches you need to start with, how many rounds you'll have to work, and at how many stitches you will need to get, then you know around the yoke how many stitches you will have to increase. And then depending of course of the multiple of stitches that you have for each round, then you will know the number of stitches that you could increase. For example, I had 25 stitches to start with for the neckline, so 25 was a multiple of 5, so I decided for my first round of increasing round to just increase, or the pattern for increase to be 1 increase and 4 stitches. So I divided the number of total stitches that I had to 5, because it was a multiple of 5. I got the result 5, so this means that I have 5 stitches to work with. This means 1 increase into the first stitch and then 4 more stitches to work, and this was the repeated increase pattern for my first round. And then with the next round, after adding 5 stitches with the first round, I can calculate how many stitches I have left to just add to my yoke to get to those bust measurements that I needed, and so on. So this can be constructed from the beginning and adjusted while you are working on the yoke. So it doesn't have to be something very specific from the beginning. You can just play around, add more stitches where you need it, but the end result has to be this one. So the only thing that you need to have in mind is that at the end of, I don't know how many rounds you'll need to end up with this number of stitches, which you calculated from the beginning that you'll need for bust and sleeves. So I hope this will be a bit helpful for you to just design your own flower buds top. Also, I will let you know that on my website you can find this pattern in a written pattern in sizes up to 3 extra large. So in case you want to check it out, you can just go on my website. I will add the link into the description below. Okay, so we are using fingering cotton yarn, and for this yarn the recommended needle is 2.5 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, but we are using 4 millimeter crochet hook. You'll also need some stitch markers from when we will have to split the yoke into sleeves and body to just mark those sections. So now we will start with the foundation chain, and for size that I'm making I will just chain 100 stitches. So I'm making a slip knot, then I will start to just chain a few stitches, and then I will pull out the hook and I will insert the hook into the first chain stitch and then into the working loop. This will help not to the foundation chain not to get twist. And I will continue to chain 100 stitches. Remember that in case you want to adjust this number, you will just need to add a multiple of 4, because a multiple of 4 stitches needs the V-stitch that we are using for this design. So now we will start with chain 4. This will be the first V-stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the same stitch. Chain 1, skip the next 3 stitches and then work 1 V-stitch, so 1 double crochet, chain 1 and another double crochet into the same stitch, then chain 1, and we will repeat to the end until the end of the round. I am at the end of the round, and I will close the round with a slip stitch into the third chain. At the end of the first round you will have 25 V-stitches, and each round will start into the 1 chain space, so go with a slip stitch over there and then chain 4 and 1 double crochet into the same stitch. This round 2 will be an increasing round, so we are doing a second V-stitch into the same 1 chain space to make the first increase, and then we will continue with 1 V-stitch into each of the next 4 V-stitches. So the increase pattern for this round 2 will be 1 increase and 1 V-stitch into the next 4 V-stitches. Now I'm doing the second increase, so I started a repeated section second time, and you'll have to repeat one increase 4 V-stitches until the end of the round. We will close the round with a slip stitch into the third chain. At the end of round 2 we will have 30 stitches, V-stitches, and we will start the third round also with our first V-stitch into the first stitch, and then we will continue with one V-stitch into each of the following V-stitches. So the third round and each of the uneven number rounds will be without increasing. So we will increase only on the even number of rounds. So now on round 3, just work one V-stitch into each V-stitch until the end of the round. Now we will start round 4, and we will have to do another increase. And now the pattern will be with one increase, which I am doing now in the first one chain space, and then one V-stitch into the next 2 V-stitches. So the pattern for this round will be 1 increase and 2 V-stitches. We had at the end of round 2 we had 30 stitches, so on this round we will increase with 10 more stitches. So at the end of the round we will have 40 stitches, and from now on each of the increase round will be with increasing, after each increase round will be increasing with 10 stitches. And now the next round will be a round without increasing, so we're just working one V-stitch into each of the following V-stitches. Okay, now we will on the next round up to round 10 we will alternate one increase round and one round without increasing. The next increase round, round 6, will be with one increase and 3 V-stitches between increases. Then on round 8 we will have 4 V-stitches between increasing, so the increase pattern will be one increase and 4 V-stitches, and at round 10 we will have 5 V-stitches between 2 increasing. And we will meet at the end of round 10 to see what we will do next. So after completing 10 rounds, we are about to switch the stitch pattern. So for the next round we will use a popcorn stitch pattern, and this round 11 will be a round without increasing, so I'm just finishing my last V-stitch over here, then chain 1, close the round into the third stitch, and then going into the first V-stitch. So as I said before, on round 10 between 2 increases we had 5 V-stitches. Now we will start the first popcorn stitch, which will be with chain 3, then work 4 more double crochet into the same one chain space, And then we will pull out a hook from the loop and then going into the third chain, going back into the working loop and pull it through the third chain. So now chain 3, we will go into the next V stitch to work our second popcorn stitch. So this time we will chain 5, pull out the hook, going into the first double crochet, then into the working loop and pass it through the first double crochet. And we will repeat working one popcorn stitch into each of the V stitches with chain 3 in between for the entire round. So basically these popcorn stitches are the substitute for the V stitches on the round in which we're not increasing. This is just to add a bit of texture, but of course if you want you can continue just with V stitches. Next, we will just close the round with a slip stitch into the middle of the first popcorn stitch. Try to find the middle over there. And we will start our round 12, which is an increased round again. So we are doing into the first popcorn stitch the first increase, so work 2 V stitches into that stitch. Then chain 1, so this was the first increase, and now we will continue with 6 V stitches. So into each of the next 6 popcorn stitches we will work 6 V stitches. So the increase pattern for this round will be 1 increase and 6 V stitches. That has to be repeated until the end of the round. And next, the next round, so the round 13 will be with popcorn stitches, then round 14 will be with increases and the pattern will be 1 increase and 7 V stitches, and then round 15 will be with popcorn stitches. And we will meet at the end of round 15. You should have 90 stitches by the end of the round 14 actually, because it will be the last round with increasing. And then at the end of round 15 we will meet again to see how we will continue our yoke section. So this we are. I just changed the color of yarn because this is the second yoke that I'm making just for the purpose of this tutorial. So I didn't had enough green yarn, but you will see on the original sample that I continue with the green yarn even after splitting the yoke into the sleeves and body. As I said, we just finished by increasing because we already have the desired number of stitches that we need for the yoke. So now we will continue just to complete the length of our yoke depth, and I will work 3 more rounds just in V-stitch. So on this round I will work 1 V-stitch into each of the popcorn stitches, and then we will continue with 1 V-stitch into each V-stitch for the next 2 rounds. And we will meet at the end of the round 18 just to see how we will split the yoke into sleeves and body, because this yoke is about to be done. So now we will use stitch markers to mark the fore section of the yoke. You will have 30 V-stitches for front and back panel and 15 V-stitches for the sleeves. We will start the separating round from where your yarn is. And we will start with the back panel stitches. So I will go into the first one chain space of the first V-stitch, and then we will start working 30 V-stitches up to the next stitch marker. Okay, so we are before the stitch marker because I placed the stitch marker into the first V-stitch of the sleeve. So now I will chain 1 and skip the next 15 V-stitches and go into the next one, and this will be the first V-stitch of the front panel, and we will have to work 30 V-stitches or until the next stitch marker that we have. So in this way we just separate one sleeve, and we will do the same thing with the second one. So here at the next sleeve you just have to chain 1, and then you will just have to skip the stitches for the sleeve and close the round into the third chain with a slip stitch. And this was the separating round. Now we will work one more round in V-stitch. So we will work one V-stitch into each V-stitch until you will have 5 rounds in V-stitches from the last popcorn stitch round. And then we will have to change the color because we will just work the popcorn stitches again by using a second color for that splash of color. But of course, if you want, you just can continue with the same color until the end of the top. So now I have 5 V-stitches rounds from the last popcorn stitch round, and we will work the next round in popcorn stitch but using the coral color. So we will rejoin this yarn, just close the round into the third stitch with a slip stitch using the same color. You don't have to cut the yarn because the next V-stitch round will be also in green. So just when you're going to the one chain space of the first V-stitch, we will use the coral color to do that. And we will work one popcorn stitch into each V-stitch around using this coral color. The popcorn stitches are worked the same as we made them on the yoke. So I will chain 3, 4 more double crochet into the same space, then remove the hook, going into the third chain. I was doing it into the first double crochet here, but doesn't matter, and then pull the loop, chain 3, and we will continue with the popcorn stitches until the end of the round. We will close the round with a slip stitch into the middle of the first popcorn stitch, and we will just grab the green color yarn, and now into each popcorn stitch we will work a V-stitch, and we will repeat these 2 rounds one more time. So we will have just 2 rounds in popcorn stitches using this coral color. So on the next round we will do the popcorn stitches using the color coral, and then we will work again V stitches using the color green. And for the length of the for the rest of the length we will work 5 rounds in V stitches. Then the next 5 rounds will be alternating one popcorn stitch round and one V stitch round, and we will end up the length with another 5 rounds in V stitches. This was the pattern that I chose, but of course that you can alternate the popcorn stitches rounds with V stitches as you wish. I didn't use any other color, so for the rest of the length I just used green color. And of course that you can work as many rounds as you wish until you complete the desired length. Here's how my top is looking until now. So after I finished the last round in popcorn in coral, I just had 5 rounds in V stitches, then I had 5 rounds in popcorn stitches and V stitches, and again 5 rounds in V stitches. And now we will work an edge for the bottom, which will be in single crochet stitches. So we will work one round, just one single crochet into each stitch, and for the second round we will use something special that I love for the, I don't know, past 2 designs that I had. I just love this method of making the waistline smaller. So just continue with this first round, working one single crochet into each stitch, and we will insert now an elastic band. So the elastic band has to be 3-4 centimeters smaller than your waist circumference, and we will work the single crochet stitches over the elastic band. So the elastic band has to be between the loop, and behind the elastic band you need to have the working yarn. So let's chain 1 and then go in with the hook under the elastic band, yarn over, and so insert behind, yarn over, bring the yarn in front, yarn over, and finish the single crochet. So this is how we are working the single crochet stitches over the elastic band, and you will need to continue until you complete the round. Make sure that from time to time you just pull the elastic band, so make sure that the single crochet stitches are not too separate, because they need to be really closer, because the elastic band is way smaller than the circumference of the bottom of the top. After completing this round, you can just make one more round in single crochet stitches if you want. If not, you can just let it like so. This band won't be too visible because the rest of the top being flowy and bigger will overlap after the elastic band. And now we will add an border, an edge, on the sleeves and on the neckline as well. And we will work just single crochet stitches for about 3 rounds. So we are going to work around the sleeves, and to do so we will work just 3 rounds for this edging. You can work more if you want a thicker edge for the sleeves, and we will rejoin the yarn at the armpit, and then we will work one round with one single crochet into each stitch, and then we will go with 2 more rounds the same, working one single crochet into each stitch. If you want, and this is how I noticed, what I noticed is because of the V stitches and because we have a lot of chain stitches along the round, the chain stitches tend to be smaller than a regular stitch. So if I will continue working all the 3 rounds with the same size hook as the rest of the top, I notice that the edge is a bit wavy. So the best idea is to use a smaller crochet hook even from the beginning, from the first round when you're starting to work on the edge, or at least the last 2 rounds to make them with a smaller crochet hook. This will help also to get into those chain stitches exactly, so not to work the single crochet under the stitch, which will create a neater look of your stitches and of your edge. So even if I realize that, and starting with the second round I used a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, I just continue to work the first round using the 4 millimeter crochet hook, but I really suggest to work with a smaller crochet hook from the beginning. So this was the first round, and I don't know if you can see that it's a bit wavy already, so this is where I will change the crochet hook with a 3.5 millimeter. So this is it, and work the next 2 rounds with a smaller crochet hook. Okay, so I just finished both sleeves with the border. So see, these are my 3 rounds here and over here. And now the same 3 rounds, we will do them on the neckline. So again, we will work 1 single crochet into each stitch, so we are not doing any decreases for the neckline. I'm using the same, as I was telling you, the same 4 millimeter crochet hook for the first round, but really recommend to use the smaller one from the beginning. I'm keep repeating that because it's weird to just recommend that but not use it. But you can try and use both of them and see how it works for you. And after completing the 3 rounds for the neckline edge, then basically the top is done. We just need to wave in all looser ends and to I won't say block it because of the elastic band. It's really weird to just stretch it and have all those stitches straight, but you can wash it, and being cotton it doesn't need it's really having a good memory, so it's the cotton itself, so it doesn't need nothing special. You can just wash it, let it lay down to dry, and this is it. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial as well. I am happy that you follow me up to the end of it, and I really hope to see as many flower buds tops as possible. So thank you for watching, and I will wait to next time with another interesting video tutorial. So bye bye.